All right. This is Chuck Laufer interviewing my dad, Charles T. Laufer, also known as Chuck or Charlie. Does anybody still call you Charlie?
Only railroaders aren't any hanging around here right now. So.
Okay. So everybody knows you started out with the New York Central Railroad. I think you told me once you were a yard clerk in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, the first thing was I worked with fellows that did little repair work, but that only lasted about a month or so. Then I took on the job as the yard clerk, which I did. And then I became an industrial clerk, which was an enjoyable occupation. Finally, I enlisted in the Army after the war, came back home, went back to the railroad, and I've just continued with the railroad with 40 years on the railroad. I loved it, every minute of it. Yeah.
Oh, good. So what's the difference between a yard clerk and an industrial clerk?
Okay, the yard clerk worked in the yard, and that was Collinwood Yard in Cleveland, Ohio. And the industrial clerk only took care of people that wanted to work with the railroad and to establish some kind of contact, and that's when I became an industrial clerk. After that, I went on with the railroad, and I worked for a total of 40 years with the railroad, and wound up as a coal traffic manager. And that's when I started to move around, because the railroad said, well, let's go here, work there and take care of the people there that take our coal trains in to use their coal supply. And they would talk to me about that, and I wanted to make sure they stayed with the New York Central, and they did. So that was a story there, but I just enjoyed being with the railroad. It just fascinated me.
Yep. And so we, of course, me and my brothers, Cliff and Don and Russ, we remember all of those moves.
Yes.
I was too young. I remember living in Tarrytown, New York.
Yes.
But before that, I was too young. I think I was 3 years old when we moved to Tarrytown.
Yeah.
But Cliff remembers that house as being very small, the 18 Kerwin place.
The 18 Kerwin place. That was an ideal spot to live when we just went along with that. And I still made my calls, customers here and there. Well, for a while, I did get to Okinawa after the war. I enlisted, and as I said, I was sort of not a coal traffic manager, but I just made sure that various things occurred at Machinado, Okinawa, and I was sort of a manager of supply, making sure that people got in and out, just a little involved there with that, but that was my career on it. But I always came back to the railroad and wound up enjoying it every minute of it.
So when we lived in Tarrytown, did you commute into the city every day?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and the main thing about that, there was a train station just down below. You could walk to the train station from where we lived. So I did. I just took the train in and out and kind of enjoyed it.
And then when we moved to Arlington Heights, you know, your job was a little different because you were on the road a lot.
Road all the time, yeah. So I was driving. I wasn't railroading at all. I was driving and enjoyed that on the road. And met a lot of people, and just kept the railroad, the New York Central, in their mind because we were doing a good job. And we talked about it.
Okay, I remember. I think I went with you at least once. Must have been during the summer when there was no school.
Oh, yeah.
So you picked a day where you knew I wouldn't be in the way,
Yeah.
and so you took me in your company car, and we would go to somewhere.
There was a company. I knew. Trying to think the name. It was a big coal company. They mined coal, and they needed cars to fit. So I just talked to them about it. They were around. I don't remember the name of the company, but it was. I'm sorry. I'm just lost. On that.
Yep, that was when we lived in Arlington Heights. Where was the company?
Well, it was across the street. There was a big building that contained a lot of offices, and one of them was this coal company. So I would get over there and talk to them about various things about keeping the railroad interested. So just
Was that in downtown Chicago? That's the coal company was in
down.
Chicago?
Yeah, one of them was downtown Chicago. Yes, we got along quite well, and I'm just trying to think more of what we did. But there was another company. I can't remember the name of the company anymore, but they were in a big building up on a hill across from the department store area. And they had offices there, so I'd visit with them over there and just keep them, reminding them of the railroad and what they did. There were two companies up there.
Now, I remember on one of the trips you took me to was to a power plant, and of course they needed coal to create electricity.
Yes.
So you made sure that they had the coal
Right.
delivered to them.
Yeah, it was. And of course, I made sure that the empties came back.
Oh, yeah,
to
that's
mine.
important.
That was an important situation. There was another coal company, and I just, my mind just can't bring them up to mine. But that was a good job. I enjoyed it very much. And finally, I retired.
Yeah.
40 years later, and just kind of sat around for a while and realized that my next door neighbor worked for a
National Car Rental.
Oh, National Car Rental?
National Car Rental. So I took a job with National Car Rental and drove a car for another 15 years. Finally, I quit, and that was enough. And then we moved here at Concordia, and we've been here ever since, and have enjoyed living here.
Living the life.
Yeah, the job with the railroad was good. It paid well, and I didn't make any enemies that I know of. One of the people from the other coal company didn't particularly like me, but that's all right.
All right. So now, before you worked for the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie Railroad, were you laid off from Conrail?
No, something happened to the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie. They disappeared. They just became part of the New York Central.
Right.
And I never got laid off. Never.
Oh, okay.
I just worked with them all the time. And I was trying to think, Consolidation Coal Company.
Oh.
It's a big coal company. Consolidation Coal. We just called them Consol. And I got very familiar with them. They were good people. They treated me well. And every once in a while we'd go out for lunch. And I remember a couple of times we all went out to this big celebration. I took your mother with me. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And it was just, had a good time and
Oh, so where was the party?
I don't remember. Do you remember where the party was? No.
That was by the coal company, by Consolidated
Yeah,
Coal.
coal, yeah. Yeah, they said it had this big party. A lot of people went there and I dressed up. It was a good fortune. So I think I have led a good life and I have enjoyed being with my sons
Yes.
and their wives and our one granddaughter.
Yes.
All beautiful people and very, very kind.
Well, we always remember you as a railroad man.
That's right. That's, yeah, that was the way of life.
Okay, I'm going to stop this one.